Okay, here's another question from the monthly questions thread. This one's from Kelly. She says, I'm a beginner fiction writer. I'm working on a novel. It's been living in my head for a while. I have a few chapters completed that I'm surprisingly happy with. That's great. I have this idea for setting up the novel with a prologue. I know prologues are a bit old-fashioned at the moment, and it isn't essential for the novel to work, but I do believe it'll enhance the reader's experience. Sounds good. I know what I want to do with it, but I just can't seem to make it work. I put it away for about 5 months and just came back to it a few days ago, but I'm still struggling. I'm not ready to give up on my idea just yet. What do you recommend to folks when they can't make an idea work? And how do I know when it's time to throw in the towel and start again with a fresh idea? That's a great question, Kelly. I think this really gets at the heart of writing for me. And I certainly find that running into roadblocks is a fairly common experience in my writing as well. So, your points then. Prologues are a bit old-fashioned, maybe so, maybe not. If you feel drawn to write one and you think it'll add to your story, that's all there is to it for me. So go for it, follow your creativity. The fact that you put, I think it'll add to the story, tells me you're probably thinking about it in the right way. So yeah, plow on with that, I reckon. Which is obviously exactly what you're trying to do. So let's tackle the main part of your question. If you've been working on it for a little while now and you don't feel like it's working, then obviously that means that something has to change. The content of the prologue is likely something about or a reflection on your story, or else it's complementing your story in some way. So it seems like you'll probably want to preserve that content, but how you present that content could change. The same information from a different perspective, perhaps, framed through a different character's eyes, maybe first person instead of third, or you could change the format entirely. Give us the information as a news article or as a scroll that was hidden behind a bookcase covered in cobwebs, something like that. What I'd suggest is maybe a little exercise of stripping back as much of the prologue or your idea of the prologue as possible until you only have the very bare essentials of it, only the important stuff that absolutely has to be there. From then, just think about maybe the most fun way that you can present it and the most fun way that you can write it. And don't be afraid to try different approaches, even just a few lines of each, because one of them just might feel right. However, I'm aware that you might have already tried all that stuff. If you've been at it for 5 months or so, you've probably turned it around every which way. So I've got some more advice if that's the case. You mentioned you're a few chapters into your novel so far and it's going surprisingly well. That's great. I'd say if you can, put the prologue aside for now and keep making progress with the main story. Because by the time you finish the first draft, you'll be a different version of yourself and a different writer than you are now. Maybe by a lot, maybe by a little, but either way, you'll have more experience with writing and that might help you write an even better prologue than you could now. But also, the further you get into your story, the more you'll learn about it, the more you'll understand it, and that kind of context could really help you approach the prologue with more purpose and maybe more direction too. So if in doubt, just keep writing and try not to turn back. If it's working for you, just getting chapter by chapter down, keep with that. So to summarize, I suppose, my advice is to change something about your current approach to the prologue. Alternate, switch out, reimagine, flip, or otherwise alter what you have in as many ways as you can. Try a bunch of different things and see if one works for you. Figure out what part of the content is the essential part that you really think is the part that's going to add to your story. Preserve that and change everything else and see if you can find some way around the roadblock that you've currently got. And if that doesn't bring you any joy, don't fret, keep going, write more chapters and work your way through the story. Your prologue might be what comes first in the story, but it doesn't mean it has to be written first. You could write it last with the knowledge of everything you get to discover about your story. Hopefully that's in some way helpful, but feel free to add a comment and we can keep talking about it. I really appreciate your support here on Patreon. Thanks again for following along.